Hello and welcome to the DudeTube podcast, the podcast where we talk about essentially anything with a circuit board, a set of wheels, and much, much more. I'm your host, Harrison, and I'm joined today with Jackson and a guest host, if you want to call him that, Kyle. I'll give them both a chance to introduce themselves and kind of give a rundown of what we're going to be talking about today.
Hi, my name is Jackson. Today we're going to be talking about some games, and then we're going to basically touch on the Nvidia RTX 30 shortage, and then I'll let Shaggy. We also call him. We just call him Shaggy. It's easier
Yeah,
that way.
just call me Shaggy at this point. That's my name now. Yeah. So, Harrison, want to get us started?
Yeah, sure.
Which
So,
one?
the first thing on our list here to cover tonight is going to be IGN, actually. Just today at 1 o'clock this afternoon, they released the official announcement of Far Cry 6. Um, from the information that I've gathered from their little snippet here, is that the company that is releasing the game, Ubisoft, has stated that it's going to be available October 7th. So it's not going to be out till fall of this year. They actually did run a reveal stream of the game. That would actually happen today. And Ubisoft also announced that they are not going to be releasing a new Assassin's Creed in 2021, which is kind of surprising for Ubisoft since they like to release new ones every year. Um,
Yeah, there's so many of them by now. I can't really keep up with what's the newest one.
Yeah, didn't
It's
they
kind of
just release Valhalla?
yeah,
What
yeah.
seems like back in December, if that.
Yeah, I think they just
Yeah.
released that, and the one before that I was still playing, and then they dropped the new one, and I'm just like, oh my God, what do I do now?
Yeah.
um,
I do kind of want to play Valhalla, though.
yeah, Valhalla seems like a good one. Uh,
Yeah.
but Far Cry, if you're not too familiar with the series, I actually started playing Far Cry with Far Cry 3. Back when you
I think I
were.
started on that one too, or Far Cry 2 myself.
Mm-hmm.
Or you just don't start it like yours truly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our buddy Shaggy over here hasn't even sniffed the series basically, which is sad. It's sad.
I
Um,
don't have a lot of time on my hands.
yeah, so if you've been following the Far Cry series, you know that throughout the years, the take on the game, the way that they have decided they wanted to go about giving the story and portraying characters has gone from, hey, you're a investigator that's been sent to Africa to take out a militia group that's invading. I believe that was Far Cry 2.
I think it
And
was, yeah.
and since then they went to uh, what was the one that was like a Vice City style? Was that Far Cry 4?
I I can't 100% remember. They kind of blended together. There's been so many of them for me.
It was like Far Cry Red Dragon, or I can't remember the exact name of
I
it.
I
But
want to say yeah. I think you're right.
so not too long ago, Far Cry 5 was released, talking about how America was overcome with a religious cult. You were sent in by the U.S. Marshals to take them
Ooh,
out,
that one was so good.
and the gameplay mechanics for Far Cry, if you're not too sure, they're fairly. I don't really want to say realistic, but they're not too far out of the book from
Kind of
being.
crude. They're really crude, to put it
Mm-hmm.
nicely.
Graphically speaking, the games are pretty good looking. They always have been. They always ran pretty well. Except when they are just released, the optimizations for them is kind of crap. Um, but they went from situations that could happen in real life to kind of going to cult overtakings. They've went to Far Cry Primal, which is essentially you take the role of uh, essentially a caveman back in the
Oh, wait.
Neolithic period.
That one was good. I liked that
I've
one.
seen actual gameplay of that. That didn't look too bad.
No, that
I like the Saber Kitty.
I actually own Far Cry Primal myself, and I've been putting quite a few hours on it. And it's definitely a different take on the typical Far Cry series. Um,
Yeah.
it says right here on IGN's website, it says Far Cry 6 will feature all the familiar trappings of Ubisoft's open world series, including animal companions and strange weapons. It is undoubtedly It will undoubtedly have Far Cry's typical sense of humor, which can be quite weird. Uh, their portrayal of characters and main uh, plot thickening in the game is very abstract, not exactly what you would expect from a game that has the advertising style of Far Cry. Uh, it's just their way of taking it is so intriguing every single time they release a new game that I think that's what keeps their audience wanting to come back. How do y'all feel about
Yeah.
that?
I 100% agree. And if you notice right below the pictures, there's a hyperlink for largest location yet, and it expands upon the how huge the map is. And this Far Cry 6 is supposed to be the biggest Far Cry yet. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if this was one of the biggest games in existence right now.
And
Their map is so big.
one thing I have noticed about what they're talking about with the Far Cry 6 up game here is that it's going to be taking place in a fictional country of Yara. It is inspired after, I'm assuming, the local landscape as well as architecture of Cuba, which is kind of surprising because most of their games usually take place either in Africa or they take place in
Uh,
America. Just all sorts of normal places that Cuba hasn't really ever been in the
yeah,
foresight.
exactly. Yeah,
Um,
probably.
One thing that kind of gets to me here is the second paragraph on this map page. It says, after a brief hands-off showcase of Far Cry 6, in which I saw a healthy glimpse of everything from a wiener dog wheelchair to a disc launcher that fires out CDs playing out the Macarena, something less ostensious caught my eye. After all, bizarre companions and wacky weaponry are Far Cry staples at this point. So, from that statement alone, you can kind of tell what kind of game you're getting into with Far Cry. It's, if you want, you can take a mix of Just Cause and Rage. If you want to put it that way, that's kind of the style they're going for.
Yeah, I totally agree that's kind of the format that they've been playing with recent games. I've kind of been surprised how kind of out there that series in general has been. Me and Harrison both play quite a lot of Far Cry actually, as far as uh, for playing one series and all we play is one series. Far Cry is pretty up there on both of our lists.
And, Kyle, is there anything that you want to add in regards to your own personal opinions? I know that you haven't played the Far Cry series yet yourself,
Yeah.
but is there anything that we've talked about or anything that you've read regarding Far Cry 6 that might make you want to try out the series?
Specifically Far Cry 6, no, but I have seen a lot of gameplay of, you know, Far Cry games in general. They're not bad, is from what I've seen. I've just never really got around to trying them because life seems to happen
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. It's just I don't have time for, single player games to get lost in. I'd love to have a chance to, but it's just a personal thing. I'm not opposed to it. It's just
Mm-hmm.
stuff happens.
Now, Jackson, a quick question for you.
Mhm.
We've both played this, and we both know how big the map is. We know that the map for Ghost Recon Wildlands was a massive map.
That was a huge
Now,
map,
do
yeah.
you think that Far Cry's and Ubisoft's claims here that it's going to be the biggest Far Cry map, with Far Cry maps being fairly large, do you think they're going to be on par, if not possibly even bigger than the Ghost Recon Wildland maps?
I think Ghost Recon Wildlands map size is going to be really hard to beat, considering how large they are. Do I think it's impossible? No. Do I really? I think they're really taking on a huge what is the word I'm looking for? A
Task.
huge company and a huge game series if they think that they can just build a bigger map because that map on Ghost Recon Wildlands, I honestly think if I were to walk that map, I legitimately think I'd be walking it for days on end.
Yeah. And actually, an interesting fact that I'm gonna add in here real quick before we move over to Mass Effect, actually, is that Far Cry 6 was actually supposed to be released in February of uh, this year. It was announced prior to the 28th of May, and announced in late 2020, saying it was going to be released in February of 21. However, that was postponed due to the coronavirus outbreak. So that's kind of unfortunate that that happened, but we just have to live life minute by minute here. Um, is there any
Definitely.
is there anything that y'all want to share or add on to this before we move over to Mass Effect?
No, I think we're set. The only thing I would say is if somebody has not played Far Cry, Shaggy, um,
What?
you guys need to give that game a shot because it's one of my favorites, and I think it gets overlooked very, very often by some.
Okay, just kind of just wanted to see if there's anything else that anybody wanted to add to that as well. Um, so moving on now to Mass Effect. Again, if you haven't played Mass Effect, it's definitely a game, a series that we really recommend that you should try out. Um, a lot of the games haven't really dropped in price too much,
No, I agree.
unless you can happen to get them on a Steam Winter Sale or on Aniba or Fanatical, where you can buy a lot of these games for well over 40% off of retail price that you can find on Steam. Um, Jackson, I don't know if you've played a little bit more of Mass Effect than I have. I haven't really dug too much into the world of that game.
Mass Effect is a game that um, it very much is kind of I'm trying to think of the best word to put it. Your the game has kind of transitioned from basically you being a goody two shoes and start when that's how it started really, and basically following orders, and then you kind of broke off and kind of went rogue, and you kind of became your own like little uh person, and I think you can choose to do what you're supposed to do, or you can break off and do your own thing. However, that game I haven't played much in recent years. I think the last one that I played was Mass Effect 3, and that was over 3 years ago. So I haven't played it in recent years, but it's always been a game that's been an interesting one, definitely.
So Mass Effect actually has their own website for the Legendary Edition here. And it's got three main sections here that they talk about. It says relive the cinematic saga, reflect on your choices, and experience the legend of Shepard. Shepard is the main character that you play as through the entire Mass Effect series. It says right here that the Legendary Edition includes single player base content and over 40 DLC from the highly acclaimed Mass Effect, Mass Effect 2, and Effect 3 games, including promo weapons, armors, and packs. And the game has also been remastered and optimized for 4K. Um,
Wow.
and kind of adding on what you were talking about, how you can kind of go off and do your own thing. It says right here, your choices seamlessly travel from one game to the next. Each decision you make will control the outcome of every mission, every relationship, every battle, and even the fate of the galaxy itself. So, my question here is, I wonder if the Mass Effect Legendary Edition is a accumulation and kind of a conglomerate mix of all three games plus the 40 DLCs, as well as its own game in the end.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm gonna say. It sounds like it is. Um, However, uh, keep in mind that this is one of those kind of like remakes, and I have a lot of games that get remaked, and they're not. I don't know. They kind of lose the spark that the game originally had.
So
But
your main fear is that since Mass Effect is taking such a huge bound to, in my opinion, it sounds like kind of their take on the Halo Master Chief Collection, where you can download one thing and you can download all the games in one package.
Yeah, I'd probably say you're right. So unless you were like an OG fan of Mass Effect, I think a lot of people that have played them at all are probably going to be steering clear unless they absolutely love the series.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's the case, if you're able to get kind of a bulk deal here and get all three games and the DLCs and the promo weapons and stuff, it would kind of give
Yep.
you a big starting pot here to really check out all three.
Well,
And
if this game, if you haven't played this game, this might be an awesome chance for you to own a good majority of that series for a decent amount of money.
and a new gameplay mechanic that they added in is creating and customization of your own character from appearance and skills to a personalized arsenal, and then lead your elite recon squad across a galaxy in turmoil. So it's going back to Ghost Recon Wildlands here. They're essentially putting in a squad mechanic where you can either go on, these adventures by yourself, as well as if you're not with other players, you can do it with a AI computer generated squad.
Yeah, the Ghost Recon Wildlands does a very good job at the squad mechanics, and so I think it might be a little bit hard to beat. But basically, yeah, I think that's I've seen that the squad mechanics in Mass Effect are pretty decent. I wouldn't call them great, but they're pretty decent. So I think I kind of think they're going back again to something that they are just kind of enhancing it a little bit. I don't know how much they'll be able to actually do to make it much better without redesigning that whole, you know what I mean?
Now, real quick, before we move on, I'm going to play the launch trailer that was released. I'm going to be playing this and I'll let you know when it's done. And so the viewers here can take a look at this and see if this is something they'd be interested in. Because right above it, it says relive the complete cinematic saga today. So it sounds like their take on the Master Chief Collection from Halo. So
Yeah, it does sound like that.
so I'm gonna go ahead and hit play on the launch trailer here,
No
and
problem.
I will let you know when that is done.
Okay.
So that was a pretty short clip. It covers a lot in so many different sequences of frames that I honestly don't even know where to begin in describing it. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of reviews about this coming out pretty soon because I know there's a lot of Mass Effect fans out there. But like I said, like you said, Jackson, I'm not too sure how they're going to feel about being able to get all three of these games plus everything that they paid for in the past all in one bundle. So,
Yeah, I agree.
Kyle, is there anything you want to add? Because I know you haven't played the Mass Effect series either.
Yeah, not really, too informed about anything Mass Effect really.
Um,
Was it Mass Effect that I think it was Apex, or was that a different game that world was based off of? Titanfall?
I think it might be a different game because I've
Yeah,
never heard about that relationship.
yeah. Well, yeah. It's gonna be another game series I'm gonna have to try out at least.
Definitely.
so Kyle, this next one, since you are the guest speaker for today's episode, I am going to give you the opportunity to talk about something that you personally find very interesting.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna
Yes.
let you talk about the new Horizon Forbidden West. So if you
Oh
want to
yeah.
get into some detail about that and let us know what me and Jackson should look forward to, because I've personally have never played the Horizon series.
Right. So to get it started, Horizon Zero Dawn, believe it's originally only for PlayStation. The new one is Horizon Forbidden West. Going to be again PlayStation exclusive, but just from what I can remember about playing the original one, the graphics in it are to die for. Just for that alone is a huge reason to play the game.
Real
Um,
quick, Kyle, do you mind talking about a little bit about Horizon Zero Dawn? Because I know you put a lot of hours into that
oh
game,
yeah,
and I
oh
think that
yeah,
would shed a little bit of light on what new players can expect from the Forbidden
yeah.
West.
And before he gets too far with that, I notice here that Horizon Zero Dawn is now out on PC. So
Ooh,
me and Harrison both have not played that series at all. And I don't know about Harrison, but I'm gonna be looking out for that on Steam right now just to see what we're missing out on.
yeah. So Horizon Zero Dawn, basic gist without getting too much into detail and possibly ruining some of the storyline, because the storyline itself is, you know, another huge reason to play the game, as most games go. Horizon Zero Dawn, basically, I don't know really how to put it. Basically, it's part, I guess, futuristic and I guess primal, the Far Cry
From
Primal almost.
from looking at the thing here on Steam, like the little trailer for it, it
Hmm.
kind of looks like a mix between um I'm trying to think of how to put it. It kind of looks like a mix of Monster Hunter World
Yeah,
and I don't
yeah,
know if I
that one
would
I've played too.
Honestly, I'm
say.
I'm thinking I'm getting Shadow of the Colossus vibes from this landscape.
Literally
I kind of
anything that you
am
could
too.
think of.
Yeah, I agree, and the graphics, like you said, do look really good, and the amount of work that's been put into this environment and these bosses and these things
Yeah.
that you're gonna be fighting look pretty in depth.
Oh yeah.
And I noticed that anytime Sony Studios basically has had any part in any of these games, they're usually pretty dang good.
Yeah. As you can see, probably Jackson and Harrison, at least looking on Steam, robotic monsters. Yeah,
Yes,
that
I
that's
saw
uh
that.
that's a that's a weird one.
That looks
Um,
kind of sketch. I think I
yeah.
would run from that if I saw that in real life.
Oh
That
yeah, in
that
real life you would run.
that's
Yeah,
kind of a Generation Zero thing. I don't know if y'all
yeah,
ever
you're
heard of that game.
Yeah. Um, the map ranges anywhere between an actual desert to forest to mountain and snow to deep jungles and everything in between.
It looks like your main
Um,
weapon is a bow, if
is a
I'm not
bow, yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah, the main weapon is a bow. There's different, ammunition for it because you're dealing with electricity and, mechanical
I didn't
monsters. So,
realize this has been out since August 7th, 2020.
uh, no, this has been out far longer than that.
No, no, I
This
mean
is
like on
on
Steam at
Steam?
least.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Why am I not playing this yet?
Right?
Yeah, the original Horizon Zero Dawn was back in 20 teens. Can't remember the actual one. But you follow Alloy or Aloy, however you want to say it, through her life story, um, finding out, where she actually came from, the actual storyline behind her life and through all these mechanical beings and sentience. Um, Getting farther into it, uh, you change your main weapon from bow to an actual staff. Um, and within farther I guess you could say, storyline, you can actually override these things,
You mean like take
ride them.
control of them
Yeah,
basically?
take control of them, ride them, make them
Interesting.
fight for you kind of thing. Yeah, there's a
It's very
lot
interesting.
interesting game mechanics that I haven't really seen anyone else do. Um, Beautiful game.
Yeah,
Can't iterate
I've
that
been watching
enough.
the gameplay footage here that they have on their website here
Hmm.
at Games Radar, and going back to what you said, Kyle, about how your main weapon is a bow and then eventually a staff, at least for Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yep.
I don't know how I would feel if I shot at a massive robotic dog-looking thing and my arrow just goes plink. I'd be
Well,
like,
Same.
yeah, no, I'm good because in
Uh,
Generation Zero, you're armed with weapons. You know, you're armed with actual, you know,
weapons, yeah.
slug throwers.
Um,
And
yeah, this is a
oh, right,
lot more
like right here, like you
strategy
said,
than
they
you'd
have
think.
they're riding these dinos and they've got a dude tied up behind it and they're just dragging them along.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot more strategy than you'd think because there's different arrow types that do different damage to different creatures that might deal more, might deal less, might actually heal them. So you
So
gotta look out for
essentially,
that,
you're
at least in
saying
Horizon Zero Dawn,
so essentially what you're
first
saying
one.
is that
Yeah.
each robot type is kind of like a Pokemon. You have the energy type, the water type, the fire type, the earth type, stuff like that.
A little
So
bit, yeah.
it kind of like a general sense there.
Yeah.
Bit of an overstatement, but at least to get the point across.
Oh yeah. Um, but yeah, haven't really read into too much about the Horizon Forbidden West, but I do remember playing the Horizon Zero Dawn. It leaves off of a big cliffhanger.
I wonder if that will
Because
be continued in Forbidden West because it says right here
I'm
it takes place
thinking
in
more
San
likely,
Fran.
yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, if you actually look at the map itself and relate it to the map of America, you can pretty much pinpoint where you are. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure, I don't know, I think it's the Rocky Mountains that lead through the east of the US.
The West,
Mm, which mountains lead through the east? I'm stupid.
Appalachians.
Yeah,
yeah,
those. You
Appalachian
can
Mountain.
tell, like, where you are on the map of the US. Like, you can pinpoint where New York is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can go through all these for, like, I guess you could call them forbidden cities, run over, taken over by plants and everything. Um, but yeah, and then you have that big mountain range that you can't go past in the first one. I'm hoping that this is what it, leads off to.
Mm-hmm.
Forbidden West looks great, even just going through the screen captures.
Well,
I'm real excited about this one.
so something that kind of caught my attention here in PC Game Radar, their their little blog post here. It says they're talking about the different her new toys, essentially her new equipment, and they have something
Mm.
called a shield wing. It says it works like a Mary Poppins umbrella to make leaping from great heights a viable option. So I wonder eventually if they have mod support for this game. Are they going to make it for every time you use your shield wing? It's going to be what was that
The
blue guy
actual
from
Mary Poppins,
No, what was that blue guy from Guardians of the Galaxy? What was his name?
the one who whistles a lot. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know his name,
he
but
was
yeah.
like, you know how he's like at the end of that he said, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all." Is that going to be like a sound effect that they build in as like an Easter egg for this game?
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, you could watch out for that, but it is a single player game, but that shouldn't be any sort of turn off to anyone
No, because
who wants to
I
play it.
definitely I don't know what the pricing is on this. I'm not on Steam right now to look at this.
Um,
It's
Horizon Zero
forty
Dawn
nine ninety
Complete
nine, I think.
Edition. Yeah, the Complete Edition, 49.99.
Okay. I'm honestly, until I played the first Horizon Zero Dawn, I'm almost tempted to buy a PS5 to try out Forbidden West because just watching this gameplay trailer, I'm intrigued. Like I genuinely want to go and buy a PS5 to be able to play this. Now, albeit you can play on PS4 as well, but
Yeah, it'll be released for PS4
I
too.
don't believe that the experience is going to be the same.
Yeah, about that, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you play the first one first.
And
Actually get through the storyline.
I just watched her tame this Rex looking thing.
Yep.
Good
Yeah.
lord, this game's got a lot. I'm intrigued to
Yeah,
see where this goes.
the first one was a huge map through a whole bunch of diversity, and it's just something to lose yourself in.
Mm-hmm. It
I
definitely is
cannot recommend this game highly enough, at least the first one.
10-4. Uh, Jackson, do you want to move over to Nvidia or do you want to move over to that interesting E3 announcement?
Um, I think both of them are quick topics. There's not a lot of information on either of them, so either or I think we can go on.
Okay, so I'm gonna move over real quick to kind of give an update here regarding the massive chip shortage that everybody is struggling with, especially Nvidia regarding their RTX 30 series. As we know that those were kind of sucked dry and scalped by a lot of the crypto miners. Nvidia recently said here that the shortages regarding the RTX 30 series are expected to remain supply constrained into the second half of the year, which is kind of bad news
Bad, yeah, for us gamers.
for anybody just an average Joe looking to get their hands on a 30 series. It doesn't seem like that's going to be happening anytime soon unless they can manage to find one that's used, but I don't think too many people are going to be giving up these cards. They're worth their weight in gold at this point.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
And you know,
Unfortunately,
unfortunately, um, it says right here, Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang anticipated supply shortages to last until 2021. In January, Nvidia's chief financial officer Colette Kress anticipated that supply for the RTX 30 series would likely remain lean through quarter one. So it's kind of interesting here because they said it would likely remain lean through quarter one, which means it would remain short. Um, but quarter one is coming to a close, and they've just now recently announced that this is going to last for the rest of the year. So it's going to last until I'm hoping no longer than October. Um,
yeah.
but however, Nvidia said that they may announce at least one new card on May 31st. Um, which is
I
in
don't
3 days.
understand how you can do that, but yet you still can't get the card out to the actual gamers. Where
Well,
it's a
my idea is that they're going to be running this on a whole different chipset, a whole different architecture that's different from the RTX series. And maybe it's one
gotcha,
that they can produce in house. To I'm wondering if it's going to be an equivalent to the 30 series. It's going to kind of be its stepbrother replacement.
gotcha.
Until they can kind of ease supply demand on these like Founders Editions cards or any kind of 30 series that's officially out now.
Right.
So I'm curious to see where they're gonna go with this. I follow a lot of news for Nvidia. I'm a big Nvidia fanboy. Jackson, you're more of a Radeon guy. Um,
Yeah, definitely more Radeon this way.
but I'll definitely be keeping y'all updated about this.
This chip shortage doesn't just affect Nvidia, it's also
No,
affecting Team Red over here, but it's also even not even in the gaming market. It's affecting all these people that are building cars, and in fact, used car prices are at an all-time high right now.
Yeah, they
You
are.
cannot buy a used car for, you know, it's not they're not cheap by any
and
stretch at this moment.
and even smart devices like the Samsung Fridge and Amazon Alexa and Google Home and stuff like that have actually gone up in price too. Something that I noticed as well.
Yeah,
Um,
basically anything with like a computer brain in the past few months
The
have gone
only
up in price.
exception to that rule, and I've noticed this, is Apple has not changed their prices on any of their iPhones, and they have not had any supply shortage.
that's
But I think,
because they don't fall into this category. They manufacture everything in house.
Correct,
Yeah.
but they're still using silicon is what I'm getting at. They've already, but I think Apple basically has continued on their merry way, and even though everyone else was dialing back their orders for silicon, Apple was just carrying on their merry way.
So that kind of makes me lead into thinking that maybe Apple is what's kind of holding back everybody because they're refusing to keep pace with everybody, and they kind of went from the back of the pack here to 3 miles ahead in terms of silicone supply, and
Yeah.
everybody else is like, "Yo, slow down, wait for us," and Apple's like, "No, I'm good. I'm just gonna keep taking what I need, and y'all can suffer the consequences." I think that
Granted, you and I both are not Apple fanboys by any stretch of the
no,
imagination.
Not one
I
bit.
may have an Apple iPhone XR sitting next to me, but I hate this phone. I'm not gonna lie. I just spent over $100 replacing the screen and the battery, and I've still got a shattered back glass.
Ooh, don't you hate it? I'm still
And
Dang,
rocking a
dude.
I
Samsung.
feel super constrained by this phone because there's so much that I can't do.
Yep.
If I had an Android like Jackson's got, or if I had something that
Mm-hmm.
actually allowed for file transfer, I wouldn't need to go buy a $2,400 laptop to do these podcasts. I could do it all off my phone, and I'd be so much set. I'd be so better set in the future. But that kind of, I just think that Apple's leaving a
a
wake of
little
destruction
bit
behind them.
locked down, and like you were saying, I think there's a lot of people who are facing something like what you're facing. However, I will say the average Joe that does not do these things on their phones will not never probably never buy anything but an iPhone,
Hmm.
because I
It's an
will give
iPhone.
I will give Apple that their stuff just works, and
Yeah, it's good
that
for the average Joe, like you said, that's just an office worker and they just need it to make phone calls, take pictures, FaceTime grandma every once in a while. And, you know,
if you're a power user, you're not buying an iPhone.
no. And
Not
I
one bit.
really regret because all the way from middle school until the beginning or the end of middle school, beginning of high school, actually, no. It was the beginning of my sophomore years when I swapped over to an iPhone 6. Um, And to be honest with you, that was probably the worst decision I ever made in my life. And I haven't had the chance to go back yet.
Well, maybe you can jump on the Galaxy bandwagon once you stop using that phone, whenever that phone keels over or croaks on you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
and
I'm still using a Galaxy S9 Plus, which is kind of
That's
outdated.
quite a few generations
Yeah, it's quite
behind.
a few generations
three,
behind,
I
but
think.
Yeah, I think it
yeah,
is.
but it's been a blessing. I've had it for like a year and a half now.
You've had that phone
With
as
this,
long as I can remember, dude. You've had that phone
no,
as long.
Yeah.
actually, no, I've had Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus for like a year.
Well,
Before that, I believe I had a ZTE Max XL,
I
which
remember that
yes,
phone.
that
sucked.
was
That's
the
the
one I
phone I
remember.
remembered.
That one, that one had problems.
Um,
About 6 months ago, I bought my S20 FE 5G, and that's an awesome phone, and
how are
I
you?
really
How do you like 5G? Do you notice any kind of performance difference with that?
it seems faster to me, but I do a lot of in-depth.
Offline stuff
No, well,
too.
no. What I'm basically saying is I stream a lot of videos and I stream a lot of things uh, all the time, and the 5G. Uh, Surprisingly enough, I live out in the boonies and I get 5G at my house. I get 5G in quite a few other places you wouldn't expect to get 5G. But when you go into the city, it seems like for some reason, I don't understand why, I get 4G when I go into the city where I'm expecting to get 5. And I think there is a difference. Uh, Granted, I think it is kind of subtle, and I think the average person is not going to notice it, but I feel somewhat like I see a difference.
Mm-hmm. Um, there was something else I was going to add to that, and I can't really remember what it was, to be honest with you.
Oh well.
Um, like everything else I've said before, is there anything else that y'all might want to add in on this? Oh, that reminds myself actually. There's one little snippet here in that Nvidia RTX 30 series article here. It says that Nvidia announced that it made 5.66 billion in revenue last quarter.
Jesus
That is
Christ.
despite the short supply and high demand, with a gaming revenue up by 106%. I'd have to read the numbers on that and kind of crunch them down to really let y'all know what that means. But to put it in perspective, Intel or AMD went from 18th in the top for the world for processing chips. They went from 18 to 11th. They dropped 7 spots by just simply producing 7,000 more chips. So they bumped up their revenue there, and that was a 93% increase. So I'm wondering how much more that actually is for it to be 106.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's absolutely obnoxious.
Yeah. Um, Real quick news for everybody. If you're an E3 fan like myself, unfortunately, E3 is not going to be something that you can go to your boss and be like, hey, I need the weekend off, or I need whatever the date normally is to go to E3. It's going to be an online, essentially a Zoom call conference. You're going to miss out on all the booths and the marketers and all being able to see all this new tech in person. However, they are saying that E3 2022 is most likely going to be an in-person event. I actually went to E3 2019, and I got to see all this stuff, and it was a pretty amazing event. So it kind of sucks to hear that that's going to be something that you're not going to be able to go and really experience in person, correct? 2020's E3 was canceled, unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But it says this year's E3 will be a free online event, and it's facing more competition than ever before. It was originally supposed to run from June 15th to 17th, so it's coming up here pretty soon. But however, Valve, Steam, is running theirs from June 16th to the 22nd. So it's going to be pretty tight to see who's going to pull a bigger crowd with this one. But we've got a couple big commitments already, early commitments actually. So we have some from Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Konami, Ubisoft, Take-Two, Warner Bros., Game & Koch, and those are pretty big game producers right there. They're all AAA game makers. And however, this is going to be surprising to you, Jackson. I don't know if you ever really follow E3 or you, Kyle, either. We have a few absences, and they're big ones.
How
Like,
big is big?
Activision, Blizzard, EA, and Sony.
wow.
They're skipping out on E3 for this year.
I don't
Yeah.
100% blame them, though,
Yeah.
because of what's going on. I mean, I don't know. That is kind of nuts, though.
Unfortunately, Xbox didn't seem too phased by it, even though they're a Microsoft thing. But Microsoft is kind of going to do Microsoft things. They're going to try to always be
Yeah.
there, regardless.
Yeah, that's kind of Microsoft's thing.
Yeah.
If they can be there, they're going to bend over backwards to be there.
Oh yeah, that's just how
Be
they
there
are.
or be square.
Now Kyle or Jackson, I mean, I believe you're the one that was it you or Kyle that figured out this next article, the PS5 one.
Oh, it was me.
Yeah.
So supposedly we have a new PS5 model that's been registered, and from what's currently being sold today. It says here this news comes by way of tech specialist and business analyst Roberto Serrano via VGC. According to Serrano, a new model of the PS5 known as CFI 1115A, as it's being called, has been found in a new wireless communication module M20DAL1, registered by Sony Group Incorporated on April 26th, 2021. So that was 3 days ago today. This suggests a revision of PS5 is coming sooner or later, already registered on May 23rd, 2021, Serrano says. And as you can see in their tweet below, Serrano actually posted a thing that shows a looks here, trying to look at what this actually is. Yeah, they've got this sheet basically that talks about all sorts of antennas and wireless specifications and things like that, including the transmission power and bandwidth and all sorts of stuff. And it even shows in a picture of looks to be a chip of some kind that I'm assuming that is going into this new PS5. I'm kind of surprised they're making another one of them, considering they've already got you know they've already got a couple different variants of the PS5, if I'm not mistaken. I don't cover them
Yeah,
super
they
closely.
they currently have the Pro or the Slim. The Pro gives you a CD drive, and the Slim doesn't. So the way that this works, the CFI 1115A, as you were just talking about, that's essentially a chipset version. It's kind of like Intel's version of the Caddy Lake socket or the Coffee Lake, or anything of that nature. That's essentially what that means. So this new PS5 is going to be running on a newer and more updated chipset and driver set than the previous PS5 models. That's essentially what they mean when they're saying it's the CFI 1115A. The CFI 1 model is kind of their baseline model. It's the last four digits that you have to worry about. So 1115A. I'm not too sure what the previous antenna or the previous versions of the PS5 run off of. But like you said, there are a lot of new antennas and a lot of new connection systems that they are that they're adding into this. So essentially, they're adding antennas with a higher gain, to 4 to 3.5 decibels, which is a antenna's isotropic level. It basically means that with these higher decibel levels and higher antenna gains, your connection for online gaming and party chat and stuff like that is going to be a lot clearer. It's going to be a lot more. It's just going to be a smoother experience overall. So essentially, this new PS5 isn't going to be anything that anybody should really, you know, jump over to super quick. If their
It's
current
not going to be a different model. They're basically saying that they don't think it's going to be a different model. It's just going to be a improvement on the
Mm-hmm.
identical
So
already.
yeah, like so if your current PS5 Pro is running fine and you don't have any problems with, you know, signal loss or packet loss or anything like that, then this new PS5 shouldn't really be too much of a concern to you. It's more focused on, I'm assuming, the higher majority of people that have been having problems with connection issues with their PS5. So essentially, it's just a firmware update, if you want to put it that way, regarding their connection systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's really nothing to jump boat on if you have a previous model.
PS5.
I'm trying to read something
A little
and
bit of
talk
a
at the
brain
same time.
fart, but it's okay.
You're good. You're good.
Um, yeah, so basically they're just changing out the wireless module in the PS5. It's nothing uncommon. Xbox does it all the time.
I'm sure they do it on behind
Actually,
closed scenes all
a lot of so when the Xbox One X and the S got released, uh, I read an article on it just the other day, and it's kind of interesting how this got brought up with PS5. That the first 300,000 units of the One X and the One S have a completely different chipset and essentially a whole different firmware than the next 300,000. So it seems like every 300,000 units that they're making slight improvements based off the feedback of the other ones. kind of odd why.
That's kind
That's
of kind
kind
of
of
kind of
smart, honestly.
that's kind of the way I think it should
And
be.
they never really announce it.
Let you know about it. Yeah.
The only way you could tell is if you took your buddy's um, opening day release Xbox One X, and you bought yours in last week, and you looked at the
Differences.
the chipset numbering on there. It's gonna be different. It's not gonna be. They're not gonna really notice much of a difference. It's just kind of like a software update, but it's actual
Yeah.
physical hardware.
Yeah.
So, was there something else, or was that it? I believe that was it.
No, I think that's everything.
Yep. Is there any closing comments that y'all want to make, Kyle, Jackson,
We
regarding any
we
of the past
are
topics?
not regarding to the actual topics, but
Okay.
I just wanted to basically say that we are going to be covering everything, as you heard from our intro, if you actually listen to it. That we're gonna be covering everything from cars to dirt bikes to side by sides to
Dude
games.
stuff.
Yeah, just dude stuff in general, just the average guy stuff. So we're and for those of you that aren't maybe interested in one specific topic or another, say we're gonna do one that's just on cars. We're gonna try to make an effort to only talk about things that are similar, so that everybody who say you want to just hear the car episodes, we're gonna basically let you. We're not gonna throw in Bitcoin into cars, so that
Mm.
everyone realizes that we're not going to basically. Want you to stay for the whole episode if we're gonna end up building it. So we're gonna continue on similar topics.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing to bring up because I know the first couple episodes here have been tech related, and
Yeah, we've had a
that's
couple issues.
and
Yeah.
we actually previously recorded an episode just the other night, but we had too
Hmm.
many technical issues with that. My microphone actually stopped working on me halfway through through the episode, so we kind of used that one as a training session, if you will.
We
And
didn't
we
realize it, and we continued on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
it was a post process issue that I had discovered, and I brought it up to Kyle and Jackson, and we kind of I'm speaking from my own words here. I kind of just labeled it as a bust, as a reject. Um,
yeah,
but it did
It was
help
good
us
for
to.
training at least.
Yeah, it
I
was
agree.
a good little training episode. It was kind of a sucky thing to lose because we did cover a lot of new information, especially it was all car information. It was pretty interesting news. Um, but it is what it is. Things happen. Episodes get dropped all the time. Uh, but there is a lot of new and other interesting stuff other than just tech in the works. Um,
Yeah,
so there will be a
Yeah.
lot of stuff covering Toyota and Ford and Polaris. They actually got some new, a pretty big bombshell that they just dropped on the general public. Um, that'll be covered here pretty soon. So just stay tuned if there's, like I said, if there's anything you guys ever want to listen to, or any kind of topics you want to be covered, you can just simply go to our website. It's in the link for the website's in all the video descriptions, and you can just submit a topic reply or a topic request there, and I'll receive all those, and we can kind of throw them on a list and really see what piques our interest, and see what's kind of a common topic that wants to be discussed.
definitely.
Right.
So if that's going to be it for today, I appreciate y'all for
I
tuning in.
think, yep,
Yes, ma'am.
absolutely.
Yes. So thank y'all for tuning in and listening to this podcast. I know it's a little bit shorter, right about an hour though, so about 55 minutes. But like I said, there will be a lot of new videos dropping on a whole bunch of different topics. So just stay tuned for that, and we'll see you guys in the next one.